What I want to argue tonight is that how we talk about belief, how we fail to criticize or criticize the beliefs of others, has more importance to us personally, more consequence to us personally, and to civilization than perhaps anything else that is in our power to influence.
A friend of mine, Noam Chomsky, said to me once that he doesn't care what people believe, it's what they do that matters, and that's true. The problem is what you believe affects what you do. If every person was an island and didn't have an impact, wasn't a parent or a teacher or have influence of others, I wouldn't care what people believed. So the problem is when people take precepts based on things that are clearly wrong, doctrines that are clearly wrong, say, for example, that homosexuality is evil. A precept written in a book that codified the beliefs of illiterate peasants in the Iron Age, and somehow we're supposed to use it as a basis of morality today. It's just an empirical fact that not only is it not unnatural, it's not evil. It's not unnatural. If you take, for example, sheep, 10% of sheep have long-term homosexual relationships. They don't even have a soul to go to hell. So it's certainly not unnatural. And so the problem is that the real problem is when people take beliefs that are clearly based on things which are incompatible with reality, not only believe them themselves, but try and enforce them upon others. You see it everywhere. I certainly see it in my country, where people view religious freedom as the right to impose their beliefs on other people. And that is just obviously an oxymoron. That and the fact that religion is associated with morality are the two biggest problems. That people seem to feel they need religion to have morality, and if you don't have religion, you are immoral. And in this country, that just means people can say bad things about you, but in other countries it means you'll be killed. It is perhaps, in my mind, the worst part of religion. If we could just take back morality and equate that with rational humanism, then religion would be impotent, and then it would be fine if people believed the fairy tales they believed.
So what is belief? Well, beliefs are representations of the world, clearly. They're mental representations of the world, but they're not only that. A belief is a representation of the world which is taken to actually represent the world, which is to say, it's taken to be true. This is what separates beliefs from suspicions or hopes. This is why beliefs can really guide our behavior. We all believe that we were meeting here for a talk at 7:30 tonight. Anyone who thought the talk was going to start at 8 will be wandering through the door in a few minutes. Beliefs organize our behavior. Just imagine the change in you neurologically that would occur if you came to believe suddenly that this building was about to collapse. Mere words, someone would just come into the door and say, "Run for your lives." And if he looked like a plausible version of a fire marshal, you would have a very different state of being emotionally, behaviorally. So that the fact that you're content to even stay seated here at the moment rests very much on what you believe to be true about your circumstance. Faith simply greases the wheels of cognition in the meantime, allowing us to take on board representations of the world that are presumed to actually represent the world. They're presumed to be true. It's presumed that Jesus really was the Son of God, or that a cracker literally becomes Jesus if you say the right Latin words over it, or that there is a God who can respond to prayer. And we presume these propositions to be true in the absence of sufficient evidence. Now, undoubtedly, there are people in this room who are going to want to say that faith is something else entirely. It's an inner knowing, it's a movement of the heart, it is some other kind of esoteric experience. What I'm arguing is that is not what billions of people on this earth mean by faith. Now, the faith of billions, these incompatible claims about the divine origin of certain books, this faith has divided our world, has balkanized our world into separate moral communities. Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus. This is a problem. These are divisions in the human community over which conflict is inevitably happening. Either you believe Jesus was the Son of God, or you don't. If you do, if you believe that there's no path to the Father but through the Son, it is impossible, logically impossible, emotionally impossible, for you to really respect the beliefs of Muslims and Jews. Those beliefs lead to damnation. When the stakes are this high, when calling God by the right name can make the difference between eternal happiness and eternal suffering. It is impossible to respect the beliefs of others who don't believe as you do. If you really believe this stuff, if you really believe that a certain book was written by God, it becomes quite reasonable to treat heretics very badly. What do we do to child molesters? We lock them up. What did we do to heretics for centuries? We burned them alive. This was reasonable, given what we believed. The patriarchs of the Western tradition, the great men still taught to all college freshmen, St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine. In Aquinas' case, he thought heretics should be killed. Augustine thought they should be tortured. Augustine's argument for the torture of heretics inspired the Inquisition. Now you may say, we don't torture heretics anymore, but we have secularism to thank for that. We have centuries of secular dialogue, secular politics, and scientific insight. We now know that when the crops fail, it wasn't because a jealous neighbor cast a spell. We know that epileptics are not possessed by demons. We know this by virtue of science. So centuries of secular conversation have essentially edited our faith, and even the faith of fundamentalists in the West. But the same is not true at the moment in the Muslim world. Specifically, the crime of apostasy, the disavowal of your religion. This is still punishable by death everywhere under Islam. Now, how often that sanction is carried out changes from country to country. But the fundamental problem here is that it is a normative conception under Islam that the disavowal of the Quran, the disavowal of your religion as a Muslim, is punishable by death. Well, 22% of Americans claim to be certain that Jesus is going to return to earth sometime in the next 50 years. Another 22% believe he probably will do so. This is 44% of the electorate. This is 150 million people in our country. 150 million people believe that a historical figure, who incidentally was crucified 2,000 years ago, is going to come out of the sky like a superhero and wield his magic powers over the face of the earth, kill all the bad people, and save the day sometime in the next 50 years. Now, this belief, of course, entails other beliefs. It's no accident that 44% of Americans also believe that we were created from dust sometime in the last 10,000 years with no genetic precursors. 44% of Americans want us to stop teaching our children about the biological fact of evolution. 62% actually want us to teach creationism in schools, but 44% want only creationism. 44% of Americans also believe that the creator of the universe literally gave the land of Israel to the Jews. This is God as an omniscient real estate broker. So one thing I argue in my book is that we are building a civilization of ignorance. And it's not just that we're in danger of losing our technological edge to China, or that medical research may be impeded, although those things undoubtedly are happening. Beliefs of this sort have geopolitical consequences. 44% of Americans, if they turned on their television tomorrow morning and saw that a mushroom cloud had replaced Jerusalem or New York, would see a silver lining in that cloud, because that cloud would be a portent that the best thing that is ever going to happen is about to happen, the return of Christ. And this is not, these people not only elect our congressmen and our presidents, they get elected as our congressmen and presidents. We are not talking about the fringes of society. We are quite literally talking about the fringes of the Oval Office, if not its present occupant. This should be terrifying to us. Faith does not offer a strong link between our beliefs and actual states of the world. And this is not an accident, because it is what we rely on when no such links exist. It is what we rely on when the reasons are not there, when the sensory evidence is not there. But there's another problem with faith, and it occurs between people and between societies. We have a choice. We have two options as human beings. We have a choice between conversation and war. That's it. Conversation and violence. And faith is a conversation stopper. The only thing that guarantees an open-ended collaboration among human beings, the only thing that guarantees that this project is is truly open-ended, is a willingness to have our beliefs and behaviors modified by the power of conversation. It should be clear. What else could do it? What else could guarantee that our future together of collaboration is actually open-ended? We have a consensual space where we continually revise our description of the world. New data comes in, new arguments come in. Now, failing that, when the stakes are high, we just start clubbing each other over the heads. If there's nothing that a devout Muslim and a devout Christian can say to one another that will put their beliefs about the world in check, that will make them mutually susceptible to the power of conversation, then when the stakes are high, there's nothing to appeal to but force. People are dying for an imaginary God, and we are not talking about it. You can read the newspaper for a year and not be reminded that the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians is a religious conflict. It is always framed as a conflict over land. It is only about land because the religious beliefs are incompatible. The theological claims on the real estate are incompatible. And moderates are uniquely unable to appreciate the link between religious dogma and violence.